Sit down now. Stop moving. Put down what you are carrying, because this is not a word for a distracted spirit. I mean that. If you are walking around the room, sit. If your hands are busy trying to finish one more thing, pause. If your mind is racing from one worry to the next, come back into this moment. Heaven is arresting your attention because there is something God is about to correct. And it is not just your schedule, not just your circumstance, not just the door that has been closed in your face. God is about to correct the name that pain tried to put on you. And listen to me carefully, you did not find this by accident. You may have been in your car with tears sitting behind your eyes trying to act normal. You may be standing in your kitchen with your phone propped up while life keeps demanding more from you. You may be on the edge of your bed, exhausted, numb, scrolling because sleep will not come. You may be at work, holding yourself together so nobody can tell how heavy it has been. Or maybe it is late, quiet, and the silence has become so loud that you almost cannot breathe. But this was not random scrolling. This was not an algorithm being clever. This was a summons. Heaven has an appointment with the part of you that almost stopped believing your season could mean anything except survival. God is saying, I know what they called it. I know what you called it, but I am about to rename it. You called it delay because it looked like everyone else was moving forward while you were standing still. You called it rejection because doors shut, people left, promises seemed to go quiet, and you were left holding questions nobody could answer. You called it failure because something did not become what you prayed it would become. You called it confusion because nothing made sense. Even though you tried to obey, you called it brokenness because something inside you did not bounce back the way people expected. But heaven is saying, that season does not get the final word over who you are. And I know part of you is already bracing. I know your shoulders may already be tightening. Something in you is asking, God, why now? Why me? Is this another shift? Is this another painful lesson? Am I about to lose something else? Am I about to be exposed again, disappointed again, humbled again? But I need you to hear this with your whole spirit. This renaming is not punishment. This is not abandonment. This is not God dragging your pain into the light to shame you. This is God stepping into the place where pain wrote the wrong label and saying, no, that is not what I called you. That is not what I called this. That is not the name heaven recorded over your life. Because what broke you was never authorized to name you. What delayed you was never authorized to define you. What rejected you was never authorized to reduce you. What misunderstood you was never authorized to rewrite the intention of God. A season can mark you, yes. A season can stretch you. A season can humble you. A season can make you limp in places where you used to run. But a season cannot take the pen out of God's hand. And before this word is finished, something in your spirit is going to recognize that what you thought was only survival was actually a sacred place where God was stripping off false names. So before we go any further, make an agreement with heaven. Like this video, as an act of agreement, not with me, but with the word that God is releasing over your life. Subscribe if you believe God still speaks in the middle of hard seasons, not only when everything is polished and pretty, but when your eyes are tired and your faith is trembling. And go to the comments right now and write, Lord, rename my season. Do not wait until you feel strong. Do not wait until you understand everything. Write it while your hands are still shaking if you have to. Lord, rename my season, because the season you called survival is about to be renamed by heaven. And now I need you to let that sentence go deeper than your emotions. What broke you was never authorized to name you. The pain was real. I am not minimizing it. Heaven is not asking you to pretend it did not cut you, did not drain you, did not leave you sitting in rooms where you could not explain why breathing felt heavy. God is not calling your wound imaginary. He saw it. He saw the moment your heart changed shape. He saw the conversation that left a mark. He saw the betrayal you never fully told anybody about. He saw the disappointment that made you quieter. He saw the year that seemed to take more from you than it gave back. But listen, a wound can touch your life. A wound can interrupt your rhythm. A wound can change how you walk for a while. But a wound does not have the authority to name your destiny. There is a difference between being wounded and being called wounded. There is a difference between passing through rejection and becoming rejected. There is a difference between experiencing delay and answering to too late. There is a difference between being misunderstood and agreeing that you are difficult. And this is where the enemy has been subtle with you, because he did not only try to hurt you, he tried to make the hurt introduce you to yourself. He tried to make disappointment become your mirror. He tried to make betrayal become your biography. He tried to make one season stand up like it had legal authority and say, "This is who you are now." No, I need you to say that in your spirit. No, that divorce does not get to name you unlovable. That family wound does not get to name you unwanted. That parent who could not affirm you does not get to name you invisible. That relationship that mishandled your heart does not get to name you hard to love. That failure does not get to name you disqualified. That sickness does not get to name you cursed. That financial pressure does not get to name you poor in spirit, poor in purpose, poor in destiny. That spiritual warfare does not get to name you unstable. It may have attacked you, but it did not create you. It may have bruised you, but it did not breathe life into you. It may have followed you, shouted at you, exhausted you, but it cannot rewrite what God spoke before people ever had an opinion. And here is the reversal. You called it abandonment, but God calls it separation. You called it loss, but God calls it clearing. You called it humiliation, but God calls it hidden preparation. You called it being pushed aside, but God calls it being protected from a room that would have celebrated your gift while crushing your soul. You called it delay, but God calls it timing. You called it silence, but God calls it deep work. You called it rejection, but God calls it redirection. You called it the end, but heaven is standing over that very place saying, "No, this is where I removed the wrong name before it became your permanent language." Because some of you have been answering to names heaven never spoke. You do not even realize it anymore. Life calls, forgotten, and something in you turns around. People call too much, and you start shrinking before you even know you are doing it. Memory calls, rejected, and your body reacts like it is still happening. Shame calls, disqualified, and you stop reaching for what God still told you to carry. Fear calls, too late, and you begin burying desires God never told you to bury. Accusation calls, unstable, and you start apologizing for having emotions in a season that would have shaken anybody. Broken people called you difficult because they did not want to deal with the truth your presence exposed. Brutal seasons called you cursed because they wanted you to forget you were covered. But God is interrupting the roll call. Heaven is stepping into the room where every false name has been speaking too loudly, and God is saying, "That one is not yours. That one is not yours. That one is not yours. Unwanted is not yours. Forgotten is not yours. Too late is not yours. Hard to love is not yours. Cursed is not yours. Disqualified is not yours. Invisible is not yours." You may have worn it so long that it started to feel natural. You may have adjusted your whole life around it. You may have made decisions from it, prayed from it, loved from it, hidden from it, introduced yourself through it without ever saying the words out loud, but it was never skin, it was a sticker. And God is about to peel it off. Now I know peeling hurts. I know when something has been pressed onto you for years, removal does not always feel gentle at first. When God starts separating you from a false identity, you may feel raw. You may feel exposed. You may not recognize yourself without the label you use to explain your pain, because sometimes the wrong name becomes familiar. Sometimes people would rather keep a painful label than face the holy unknown of being called something new. But chosen one, hear me. Familiar does not mean true. Long-standing does not mean God-given. Just because a name followed you through multiple seasons does not mean heaven assigned it to you. The people who named you out of their brokenness did not have final authority. The season that named you out of its brutality did not have final authority. The enemy that named you out of accusation did not have final authority. Only God names what He creates. Only God has the right to look at a life, see the beginning and the end at the same time and say, "This is who you are." Your pain can testify, but it cannot rule. Your past can explain some things, but it cannot own all things. Your wound can be part of the story, but it cannot become the title. So let heaven correct the title. Let God put His hand on the place where you have been calling yourself by what happened to you. Let Him touch the word you have been afraid to say out loud. Let Him touch the secret name you gave yourself in the dark. Failure, burden, problem, left behind, not chosen, not enough, too damaged, too late. Let Him touch it. Do not defend it. Do not protect it. Do not say, "But this is all I know." God is not asking what you know, He is revealing what He spoke. A season may mark you, but it does not have the authority to name you. A scar may remain, but a scar is not a crown. A limp may be present, but a limp is not a label. Tears may have watered the ground, but tears do not get to decide what grows there. And before this message is over, God is going to show you that the place you thought proved you were finished is the same place where heaven is announcing, you are not what happened to you. You are what I called you. And if you need a picture of this, look at Jacob. Look at the man who spent so much of his life trying to outrun what was attached to him. Jacob was not introduced to us as a man with everything settled. He was a man of struggle, a man of striving, a man caught in family conflict before he even understood the weight of his own story. His name carried the sound of grabbing, wrestling, supplanting, trying to get ahead, or trying to survive by holding on to what he feared he would never be given freely. And some of you know that kind of life. You know what it is to grow up feeling like you had to fight for a place, fight for attention, fight for blessing, fight to be seen, fight to be chosen, fight to not be forgotten in a house where love felt divided or conditional or complicated. Jacob knew pressure. Jacob knew fear. Jacob knew what it was to leave one place carrying unresolved things behind him and walk toward another place carrying uncertainty in front of him. He knew what it was to have blessing and still not have peace. He knew what it was to have possessions and still feel pursued. He knew what it was to be touched by promise and still haunted by yesterday. And that is why his story is not just an old story, it is a mirror. Because there are people listening right now who have received enough from God to know He has not left you, but you are still wrestling with the name life put on you before you knew how to defend yourself. And then came the night. Not the bright place, not the celebration, not the moment when everyone was clapping and saying, "Look how far Jacob has come." No, the night, isolation, uncertainty, silence pressing against him, the kind of darkness where your memories get loud, the kind of night where you cannot distract yourself with noise, cannot hide behind people, cannot keep performing strength because there is nobody left to perform for. Jacob was alone, and suddenly he found himself wrestling with a man until daybreak. And to the natural eye, it looked like an attack. It looked like another fight. It looked like one more thing coming against a man who had already carried enough conflict. But listen to me carefully. What looked like an attack was actually an encounter. What looked like opposition was actually visitation. What looked like God coming against him was God coming close enough to change him. That wrestling match was not punishment. It was promotion. It was not God fighting Jacob to destroy him. It was God confronting the old name so the new one could rise. Because there are certain things God cannot simply explain to you from a distance. There are some identities He has to wrestle out of your grip. There are some survival patterns He has to confront face to face. There are some old names that will not fall off while you are comfortable, applauded, entertained, and surrounded by people who only know the version of you that learned how to cope. God did not rename Jacob at a banquet. God did not rename Jacob when life was easy. God did not rename Jacob when everything made sense and the road ahead was clear. God renamed him in the struggle, at the edge of exhaustion, when the strength he had always depended on was no longer enough. And somebody needs to hear that. The fact that you are tired does not mean God is finished with you. The fact that you have been wrestling does not mean heaven is against you. The fact that you are at the end of your old strength may be the very sign that the old name has reached its expiration. Jacob held on and said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Not because he was strong in the way people celebrate strength. He was desperate. He was emptied. He was out of tricks. He was out of masks. He was out of the old Jacob way of managing things. And there, in that raw place, God asked him, "What is your name?" Do you understand the mercy in that question? God already knew his name. God was not looking for information. God was bringing Jacob into confession. Say the old name. Acknowledge what you have been called. Admit what has been attached to you. Bring it into the encounter, because I am not going to rename what you keep hiding. And Jacob said, "Jacob, striver, grabber, supplanter, the one who has been trying to secure by force what only God can establish by covenant." And heaven answered with a new name. "Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel." Do you see it? The new name came at the place where the old identity finally ran out of strength. The new name came while his body was still aching. The new name came before everything around him was fixed. The new name came before every relationship was restored, before every fear was resolved, before the sun had fully risen on the next chapter. God did not wait until Jacob looked brand new to call him brand new. And this is where I need to speak to your scars. Jacob did not leave that encounter untouched. He left with a limp. God changed his name, but he did not erase all evidence of the wrestling. And some of you have been asking God, if you are really changing me, why do I still feel this place? Why do I still remember? Why do I still walk differently after what happened? Why is there still a tenderness when certain names are mentioned, certain doors are passed, certain songs are heard, certain seasons come around again? But chosen one, a limp is not always evidence of defeat. Sometimes a limp is evidence that you survived an encounter that changed your name. God did not remove the mark, but he changed the meaning attached to it. Before, the mark would have said, Jacob was damaged. After the encounter, the limp testified, Israel met God and lived. Before, people could have looked at his weakness and assumed loss. After, heaven looked at him and saw transformation. And that is what God is doing with you. He may not erase every scar from the season, but he is removing the shame from it. He may not make you forget every night you cried, but he is changing what those tears mean. He may not make your walk look like it used to look, but he is making it truer, humbler, stronger, more dependent on him than on the old strength that kept trying to save itself. So stop calling the wrestling proof that you are losing. Stop calling the long night evidence that you have been abandoned. Stop calling the pressure a sign that God has turned his face away. That night may be the very place where heaven is changing what you will be called next. That exhaustion may be the place where the false name finally loses its grip. That isolation may be the place where God gets you away from every voice that kept reinforcing Jacob when he was ready to call forth Israel. You went into the night with fear, but you are not coming out named afraid. You went into the night with shame, but you are not coming out named disqualified. You went into the night with questions, but you are not coming out named confused. You went into the night limping under the weight of what happened, but heaven is speaking over you now. You are not the old name. You are not the old wound. You are not the old pattern. You are the one God met in the dark and refused to leave unchanged. And now bring that out of Jacob's night and bring it into your room, your phone, your calendar, your bank account, your relationships, your unanswered messages, your closed doors, your changing plans. Because some of you are looking at your life right now and saying, God, I do not understand what you are doing. Everything that used to feel stable is trembling. People I thought would stay are shifting. Plans I was sure about are collapsing. Doors I prayed over are not opening. Routines that used to hold me together do not work anymore. Support systems that felt familiar suddenly feel fragile. And because you do not have language for it yet, you called it confusion. But heaven is interrupting that word. The season you called confusion is being renamed construction. I need you to hear that slowly. What feels like collapse may be God rebuilding the foundation strong enough to hold the name he is giving next. That is not destruction. That is construction. That is not abandonment. That is architecture. That is not God taking from you. That is God removing what cannot carry your next season. And I know it does not always feel holy while it is happening. It feels inconvenient. It feels painful. It feels unfair. It feels like too many things are moving at once. But sometimes, the evidence that God is building is that everything not built by him starts shaking when he steps onto the site. Listen to me carefully now. God cannot pour new weight on cracked concrete. He cannot place a holy future on a false identity and call it mercy. He cannot build the next level of your calling on the same foundation that taught you to beg for approval, hide your pain, fear, rejection, over-explain your obedience, and keep relationships alive by betraying yourself. He loves you too much to decorate a structure that is sinking. He is not interested in changing the sign on the front of the house while the foundation is breaking underneath. Renaming is not cosmetic. God is not changing the title while leaving the bondage. He is changing the structure. That is why certain things are trembling now. Old agreements are trembling. The silent agreements you made with fear. The agreements that said, I will never trust again. I will never need anybody again. I will always expect disappointment. I will shrink so people will not leave. I will perform so people will approve. I will stay quiet so nobody gets uncomfortable. Those agreements cannot cross into the renamed season. Old fears are trembling. Old dependencies are trembling. Old approval addictions are trembling. Old survival habits are trembling. Old versions of self-protection are trembling, because God is not just calling you by a new name. He is making you able to live under it. Because what good would it be for heaven to call you free while you still obey every chain? What good would it be for God to call you chosen while you still live like rejection has the final vote? What good would it be for God to call you restored while your appetite still runs back to the places that drained you? No, chosen one, this is deeper than a new word. This is deeper than a better feeling. This is God reaching beneath the visible part of your life and touching the beams, the roots, the wiring, the hidden places where your choices were being controlled by old pain. And that is why you have felt exposed. That is why things you thought you were over have been coming back up. That is why certain reactions surprised you. That is why one small conversation could open an old wound. That is why you suddenly saw how much of your life was built around being accepted, being needed, being understood, being chosen by people who never had the authority to name you. God is not exposing you to shame you. He is exposing what cannot support you. He is showing you the crack, not because he wants you to stare at the crack forever, but because he refuses to let you build another decade on it. Some of you are saying, but it feels like everything is falling apart, and I hear that. Heaven hears that. God is not dismissing how heavy this feels. But what if everything is not falling apart? What if what is falling apart is what was never fastened by God in the first place? What if the relationships shaking are revealing which ones were attached to your old usefulness and not your true identity? What if the plan collapsing is not punishment, but protection from a future too small for the name God is speaking over you? What if the door closing is not rejection, but a wall going up so you cannot run back into a room that only knew how to call you by your old name? You keep asking God to make it make sense, and God is saying, I am making it solid. You keep asking for clarity, and God is saying, I am laying foundation. You keep asking why the familiar is becoming unstable, and God is saying, because familiar is not the same as faithful. Some things stayed because you kept holding them together. Some things survived because you kept apologizing for needing what was normal. Some things looked strong because you were carrying both sides. But when God begins renaming a season, He stops empowering what depends on your dysfunction to remain standing. So do not panic when the old scaffolding comes down. Do not call it loss every time God removes a prop. Do not call it confusion every time heaven rearranges the room. Construction sites are noisy. Construction sites look unfinished. Construction sites do not always look beautiful while the work is active. There are exposed beams, dust in the air, blocked pathways, temporary inconvenience, and places you cannot enter yet because the builder is still working. But unfinished does not mean abandoned. Uncomfortable does not mean cursed. Hidden does not mean forgotten. Messy does not mean meaningless. God is changing your posture. You will not enter this next season hunched over under the names people gave you. God is changing your appetite. You will not keep craving what once fed your insecurity. God is changing your capacity. You will not keep breaking under the weight of what you were born to carry. God is changing your structure so that the name He speaks over you does not crush you, confuse you, or become something you wear publicly while bleeding privately. The season you called confusion is not confusion in heaven. Heaven has blueprints. Heaven has measurements. Heaven knows what must be removed, what must be reinforced, what must be healed, what must be severed, what must be rebuilt. And even if you are standing in the middle of it with dust on your hands and questions in your mouth, God is saying, do not name this collapse. I am constructing you. I am preparing you. I am making you strong enough to carry what I have called you. And this is where the word gets deeper, because God is not just renaming what is around you. He is renaming what is within you. He is not only changing the season, He is changing the capacity of the person who must walk through it. Because a renamed season requires a renewed container. A new name cannot rest on an old pattern forever. A new mantle cannot be placed on an unchanged reaction and not eventually tear something open. Listen to me carefully now. Some of you have been asking God for a better season, and God is saying, I am making you better able to steward it. You have been asking for the open door, the restored relationship, the clearer path, the answered prayer, the visible proof, and God is not ignoring you. But He loves you too much to give you a season your current capacity would sabotage. He will not pour holy weight into a container that still breaks every time pressure rises. He will not pour new wine into old wineskins that have no room to stretch, because new wine expands, new wine moves, new wine ferments, new wine puts pressure on the skin that holds it. And if the skin is old, rigid, brittle, and unrenewed, the very blessing you prayed for can become the thing that exposes what was never healed. That is why this stretching feels personal. That is why God is not only dealing with your circumstances, He is dealing with your emotional capacity. He is dealing with your spiritual capacity. He is dealing with your relational capacity. He is teaching you how to carry more without becoming bitter, how to wait without becoming suspicious, how to obey without needing everyone to understand, how to love without losing yourself, how to forgive without returning to bondage, how to stand without constant validation from people who were never assigned to confirm you. You thought the main issue was the delay. God is saying, I am forming patience. You thought the main issue was the rejection. God is saying, I am forming identity. You thought the main issue was the closed door. God is saying, I am forming discernment. You thought the main issue was the pressure. God is saying, I am forming spiritual authority. You thought the main issue was the betrayal. God is saying, I am forming forgiveness without foolishness. You thought the main issue was the silence. God is saying, I am forming obedience when applause is absent. You thought the main issue was people not seeing you. God is saying, I am forming the ability to stand even when nobody claps, nobody calls, nobody explains, nobody validates what I have spoken. Chosen one, that is capacity. Capacity is not just how much you can survive. Capacity is how much you can carry without becoming someone God never called you to be. Capacity is the ability to be blessed and still be humble, to be opposed and still be clean, to be delayed and still be faithful, to be misunderstood and still refuse bitterness, to be elevated and still stay submitted, to be corrected and not collapse into shame, to be hidden and not create your own platform out of impatience, to be given more and not lose the tenderness God placed in you. And this is why you may not recognize yourself right now. Do not panic. You are not disappearing. The old reactions are dying. The old reflexes are losing their throne. The part of you that used to chase is being crucified. The part of you that used to beg for clarity from confused people is being silenced. The part of you that used to answer every accusation, defend every motive, explain every boundary, and prove every good intention is being trained to rest. Something in you is learning not to panic just because someone withdraws. Something in you is learning not to shrink just because someone misunderstands. Something in you is learning not to run back to what wounded you just because healing feels unfamiliar. That unfamiliar feeling is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is freedom before your nervous system knows what to do with it. Sometimes peace feels strange when chaos has been your normal. Sometimes self-control feels like loss when reaction used to feel like power. Sometimes obedience feels lonely when disobedience kept you connected to people you were never supposed to stay tied to. But God is saying, do not call this loss. I am enlarging you. Do not call this cruelty. I am stretching you. Do not call this punishment. I am making room. Because the old container was too small for the next measure of grace. It could hold survival, but it could not hold stewardship. It could hold coping, but it could not hold calling. It could hold reaction, but it could not hold authority. It could hold people pleasing, but it could not hold holy assignment. And God is not cruel for stretching what is too small. He is merciful for refusing to let the next blessing burst you open in places that were never strengthened. So when God asks you to wait, He is expanding capacity. When He tells you to be quiet instead of defending yourself, He is expanding capacity. When He tells you to forgive without handing someone the keys to your life again, He is expanding capacity. When He tells you to walk away from what keeps naming you by your wound, He is expanding capacity. When He tells you to obey before the proof arrives, He is expanding capacity. When He tells you to stand still while old doors close, old voices fade, and old cravings lose their grip, He is expanding capacity. He is not renaming your comfort, He is renaming your capacity. He is not merely giving you a better season so you can feel better for a moment. He is making you into the kind of person who can steward that season without losing yourself, without worshiping the gift, without returning to the old pattern, without letting pressure turn you back into the person pain trained you to be. The renamed season is not just a new calendar. It is a new container. It is a deeper well. It is stronger walls. It is a steadier spirit. It is a heart that can receive more grace because it has stopped agreeing with the old name. And before you complain about the stretching, remember what it means. It means there is more coming than the old version of you could hold. It means heaven is not discarding you. Heaven is preparing you. It means God looked at your life and said, I cannot leave them with this small capacity, because what I am about to place on them requires discernment, patience, courage, self-control, authority, forgiveness, obedience, and the strength to stand even when no one else understands. So let him stretch you. Let him renew the wineskin. Let him make room. The pressure is not proof that you are breaking. It is proof that the old container is giving way to the person God already named. And now I need to tell you where the fight is going to try to move next. Because once God starts changing your capacity, once heaven starts calling you by a name that does not match your old wound, the old voices will start getting loud. I am not saying they might. I am telling you they will. People will speak. Memories will speak. Accusations will speak. Fear will speak. Your own inner scripts will rise up like they still have authority over the room. And if you are not careful, you will mistake familiarity for truth. Listen to me carefully now. There are voices that only know the version of you that survived. They only know the you that begged, the you that broke down, the you that kept returning, the you that apologized for having boundaries, the you that stayed too long, the you that reacted out of pain, the you that did not know who you were yet. And because that is the only version they benefited from, that is the only version they will keep calling for. They will not celebrate the name God is speaking if the old name gave them access to your weakness. They are going to say, you are still the same. They are going to say, you will always fail. They are going to say, nobody stays. They are going to say, God forgot you. They are going to say, you are too damaged. They are going to say, you missed your moment. They are going to say, look at your past. Look at your mistakes. Look at how long it took you. Look at what you lost. Look at who left. Look at what you still feel. And some of those voices will not come from outside. Some of them will rise from inside your own chest, wearing the sound of old disappointment, old rejection, old shame, old fear. But here is the hard boundary. Do not answer them. Do not negotiate with a voice heaven did not send. Do not build your identity around people who only recognize your pain. Do not keep turning around every time an old label calls your name. You are not obligated to explain Israel to everyone who was committed to benefiting from Jacob. You are not required to prove the new work of God to people who have already decided that your past is the only evidence they will accept. And I know part of you wants to defend it. I know part of you wants to say, no, I have changed. No, God is doing something in me. No, I am not who I was. No, you do not understand what happened in the night. But listen, chosen one, the new name is not fragile because someone refuses to pronounce it. Heaven did not ask their permission before renaming you. God did not gather your critics into a meeting and say, do you approve of my purpose over this life? No. When God spoke over Jacob, he spoke with authority. And when God speaks over you, the old voices do not get a vote. Jacob could not live as Israel while still responding to every old definition of Jacob. He could not keep turning back every time someone remembered the striver, the grabber, the one with a complicated story, the one with a family history, the one with a past. At some point, he had to walk differently because God had called him differently. At some point, the limp had to become testimony, not an invitation for shame. At some point, he had to stop letting the old name decide how he entered the new day. And that is where some of you are right now. You are trying to enter the renamed season while still obeying voices that only know your old identity. You are trying to walk in peace while still checking the opinion of people who profit from your anxiety. You are trying to stand in freedom while still answering the phone when bondage calls. You are trying to believe God restored you while still rehearsing accusations from a season God already brought you through. You cannot keep feeding the voice that is trying to starve your faith. Stop reporting to the people who only promoted your pain. Stop shrinking for rooms that only loved you manageable. Stop auditioning for acceptance from those who preferred you confused. Stop handing evidence of your healing to people who have already made a religion out of doubting you. There are some people who do not need more explanation. They need to see your back as you keep walking. There are some accusations that do not deserve a paragraph. They deserve obedience. There are some fears you do not rebuke by arguing. You rebuke them by refusing to live as if they are true. Silence is not always weakness. Sometimes silence is spiritual authority under control. Sometimes the most prophetic response is not defending yourself, not correcting the rumor, not proving the growth, not begging to be understood, but walking like the name God spoke is enough. Let them call you what they remember. Heaven calls you what he redeemed. Let them measure you by the night. Heaven names you by the encounter. Let them say you are finished. Heaven says you are being formed. Let them say you are too late. Heaven says the appointed time is still in God's hand. Do not answer the old name. Do not answer shame. Do not answer rejection. Do not answer fear. Do not answer the memory that only shows you the moment you fell and never shows you the mercy that lifted you. Do not answer the inner voice that says, "This is who you will always be." That voice is not prophecy. That voice is a prison door pretending to be wisdom. That voice is an old script trying to keep its role in a story God has already rewritten. You cannot fully enter the renamed season while still bowing to the voices of the old one. So, draw the boundary in your spirit. Draw it in your conversations. Draw it in your habits. Draw it in your phone. Draw it in your memories. When the old accusation calls, let it ring. When the old fear knocks, do not open the door and offer it a seat. When the old person tries to pull you back into the version of you God delivered, do not perform for them. Do not collapse for them. Do not become small enough for them to recognize. God is not asking you to prove the new name. He is asking you to carry it. Walk under it. Pray under it. Make decisions under it. Rest under it. Set boundaries under it. And when the voices come calling you by what broke you, do not turn your head. That is not your name anymore. And now comes the part your flesh does not want to hear, but your spirit already knows. You have to let the wrong name fall without trying to catch it. You have to stop running underneath things God is letting drop. You have to stop grabbing for the old label every time it slips off, because part of you got used to wearing it. Part of you got used to being the strong one, the rejected one, the forgotten one, the overlooked one, the responsible one, the one who always understands, the one who always adjusts, the one who always apologizes first, the one who keeps everything from breaking, even while breaking inside. But listen to me carefully now. Some things are supposed to fall in this season. Some roles are supposed to fall. Some images are supposed to fall. Some expectations are supposed to fall. Some relationships built on your self-abandonment are supposed to fall. Some versions of you that people praised because they benefited from your silence are supposed to fall. And if God is the one releasing it, you are not being faithful by catching it. You are not being loving by holding it together. You are not being mature by keeping alive what heaven is dismantling. Let the false title fall. Let the performance fall. Let the need to be understood fall. Let the apology you may never receive fall. Let the old version of you fall. Let the image of who you thought you had to be fall. Let the responsibility for everyone's emotions fall. Let the burden of proving you were wounded fall. Let the pressure to make people recognize your growth fall. Let the fantasy of being validated by the same mouths that misnamed you fall. Let it fall. Do not reach for it. Do not rescue it. Do not dress it up in spiritual language and call it obedience when it is really fear with a Bible verse on it. Because that is the fear underneath surrender. If you stop managing everything, you think you will lose everything. If you stop texting first, you think no one will stay. If you stop explaining yourself, you think everyone will believe the lie. If you stop shrinking, you think you will become too much. If you stop carrying the old role, you think the whole room will collapse. And God is saying, let it collapse if it was only standing because you betrayed yourself to hold it up. What is truly assigned to you cannot be lost through obedience. What God has ordained does not require your dysfunction to survive. What heaven has attached to your life will not be destroyed because you stop performing for people who were never authorized to name you. I know it feels frightening. I know surrender can feel like standing with empty hands while everything familiar falls around you. But empty hands are not cursed hands. Empty hands are ready hands. Empty hands can receive. Empty hands can be filled. Empty hands can be anointed. A new name cannot be received by hands still gripping old evidence. You cannot hold the wound in one hand, the accusation in the other, and then tell God you are ready to receive what He is speaking. At some point, you have to put it down. Not because it did not matter, not because it did not hurt, not because they were right, but because it is not allowed to be your name anymore. Stop replaying the conversation. You heard what they said. Heaven heard it too. Stop chasing the closed door. If God shut it, your knocking will only bruise your hand. Stop shrinking to stay acceptable in rooms that only welcome the edited version of you. Stop rehearsing the old pain like it is still the final word. Stop dragging yesterday's rejection into today's prayer and asking God to bless a name He is trying to remove from your mouth. Stop studying the evidence of your old season like your future is hiding in the ashes. Your future is not in the ashes. Your lesson may be there, your testimony may be there, but your name is coming from God. And right now, I want you to pause. Wherever you are, in your car, in your kitchen, lying on your bed, sitting in silence with tears you did not plan to cry, just breathe. Take one breath slowly. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your hands if they are clenched. And quietly, in your spirit, release the name that wounded you. Release the word they called you. Release the sentence that has been living in your chest. Release the label that followed you from childhood, from the breakup, from the failure, from the betrayal, from the delay, from the diagnosis, from the closed door. You do not have to shout. You do not have to perform. Just let it fall. Let unwanted fall. Let too late fall. Let damaged fall. Let failure fall. Let forgotten fall. Let hard to love fall. Let not enough fall. Let always alone fall. Let used up fall. Let behind fall. Let every name that came from pain fall to the ground where it belongs. Do not pick it back up just because it feels familiar. Familiar is not always safe. Familiar is not always true. Familiar is sometimes the chain you learn to decorate because you forgot what freedom felt like. God is not asking you to deny the wound. He is asking you to stop letting the wound introduce you. He is not asking you to pretend the season did not happen. He is asking you to stop letting the season sign your future. The old label may explain where you have been, but it does not have authority over where God is taking you. The old evidence may describe a chapter, but it cannot name the whole book. Heaven has a word over you that did not begin with their rejection and will not end with their opinion. So let the wrong name fall. Let it hit the ground. Let it lose its power. Let it become something you walk away from instead of something you carry into every room. You are not being emptied to be abandoned. You are being emptied to be renamed. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the version of yourself that had to survive under a false name. And when your hands stop clinging to what broke you, you will be able to receive what God has been trying to place on you all along. And now, after the wrong name falls, do not be surprised if everything around you does not change immediately. Listen to me carefully. The first evidence that heaven has renamed your season may not be the door opening. It may not be the phone call. It may not be the apology. It may not be the public vindication. It may not be everyone suddenly seeing what God has been doing in secret. The first evidence may be quieter than that. It may be peace. Not weak peace. Not pretend peace. Not the kind of peace that denies reality and calls it faith. I am talking about a holy steadiness that rises inside you before the proof appears around you. A witness in your spirit that says, something has shifted. A deep knowing that says, I am not who that season called me. A calm that does not make sense on paper. A breath that returns to your chest even though the circumstances have not finished changing. That is not coincidence. That is not emotional exhaustion. That is heaven correcting the label from the inside first. Because sometimes God renames you internally before He reveals you externally. Sometimes He changes the witness within before He changes the scenery without. Sometimes He lets your spirit hear the new name before your eyes can see the new season. And that is where faith must grow up. Faith cannot keep demanding proof before it agrees with God. Faith says, if heaven has spoken, I will begin to live from the name God gave me, even while the old evidence is still lying on the floor. Some of you are waiting for the whole picture before you believe the name. God is saying, I may not show you every detail yet, but I will give you peace for the next step. You may not know where the road ends, but you will know you are not abandoned on it. You may not know who will stay, but you will know you are covered. You may not know when the promise will fully manifest, but you will know the delay was not denial. You may not know how God is going to restore what was torn, but you will know the tearing did not get the final word. This is how the renamed season begins. You stop calling yourself abandoned, and something in you begins to whisper, covered. You stop calling yourself delayed, and something in you begins to answer, prepared. You stop calling yourself rejected, and heaven says, redirected. You stop calling yourself broken, and God says, rebuilt. You stop calling yourself hidden as punishment, and the Spirit says, hidden for formation. Not hidden because God forgot you. Hidden because He was forming what public pressure would have crushed too early. Hidden because roots grow in darkness before fruit can survive in the light. And I know you want visible proof. I know you want the evidence to come quickly. I know you want the room to change, the relationship to change, the report to change, the bank account to change, the opportunity to change, the people who misjudged you to finally see clearly. But listen, chosen one, do not despise the first gift just because it comes quietly. Peace is not a small thing when you have lived under torment. Rest is not a small thing when your soul has been trained by survival. Stability is not a small thing when your name has been tossed between accusation, rejection, and fear. Jacob left the wrestling place limping, but he also left blessed. Do not forget that. The limp did not cancel the name. The limp did not mean the encounter failed. The limp did not mean he was less chosen. The limp became evidence that he had been touched by God. The evidence of struggle became evidence of encounter. He did not walk out untouched, but he walked out renamed. He did not walk out looking untouched, but he walked out carrying authority he did not have before the night began. So stop being ashamed of the limp. Stop thinking the marks mean you missed God. Stop thinking the tenderness means you are weak. Stop thinking the fact that you still remember means you were not healed. Some scars do not announce defeat. Some scars announce survival. Some scars announce mercy. Some scars announce, I wrestled through the night, and I did not let go until blessing spoke over me. Your limp is not your disqualification. Your limp may be the evidence that you encountered God in the very place that should have destroyed you. This is not the season of shame. Hear me. This is the season of restoration. This is not the season of wandering. This is the season of alignment. This is not the season of defeat. This is the season of holy authority. This is not the season where your past gets to preach louder than God. This is the season where heaven corrects the record. This is the season where the name that pain gave you loses its grip, and the name God spoke begins to rise like dawn inside your spirit. So begin speaking like heaven has already corrected the label, not arrogantly, not loudly for performance, but steadily. When fear says, you are alone, answer, I am covered. When shame says, you are finished, answer, I am being restored. When delay says, you are forgotten, answer, I am being prepared. When rejection says, you are unwanted, answer, I am redirected by God. When the old season says, this is who you are, answer, that is where I wrestled, but it is not what I am called. Before the proof appears, let peace testify. Before the crowd understands, let your spirit agree. Before the circumstances catch up, let your mouth stop repeating the old name. There is a sacred suspense here. God is not revealing everything at once because He is teaching you to trust the voice before the visible. He is teaching you to stand in the name before the evidence applauds it. And if peace is rising in you right now, even a small peace, even a trembling peace, do not dismiss it. That may be the first sound of the new name entering the room. And now we are going to pray this through, not casually, not as a little ending to a message, but as a holy agreement with what heaven has been speaking over you. Because there are moments when you cannot just listen. You have to agree. There are moments when your spirit has to stand up, even if your body is tired. There are moments when the old label has to hear your mouth come out of agreement with it. So wherever you are, do not rush this. Do not scroll away. Do not treat this as background noise. This is the part where we break agreement with the name that tried to bury you. Father, in the name of Jesus, I bring this one before you, the one listening right now, the one who has carried names you never gave, the one who has been called broken, rejected, delayed, forgotten, too much, not enough, hard to love, impossible to restore, the one who smiled while surviving, the one who kept functioning while bleeding inside, the one who learned how to answer to pain because pain was louder than peace for so long. And right now, by the authority of heaven, I declare that every false name spoken over their life is losing authority now. Every name spoken by trauma, lose your authority. Every name spoken by betrayal, lose your authority. Every name spoken by fear, lose your authority. Every name spoken by rejection, lose your authority. Every name spoken by delay, poverty, sickness, shame, accusation, abandonment, disappointment, failure, and loss, lose your authority now. You do not get to name what God has claimed. You do not get to define what heaven is restoring. You do not get to write the final sentence over a life God is still breathing on. I declare over you that the wound is not your name. The divorce is not your name. The closed door is not your name. The mistake is not your name. The diagnosis is not your name. The empty season is not your name. The betrayal is not your name. The waiting is not your name. The night of wrestling is not your name. The limp is not your shame. The tears are not your identity. The silence was not proof that God abandoned you. The delay was not proof that heaven forgot you. The breaking was not proof that you were beyond repair. No, heaven is correcting the record right now. Father, reveal the name you have written over this season. Not the name pain screamed, not the name people repeated, not the name fear carved into their memory. Reveal the name you spoke before they had language for their own wounds. Let them hear restored. Let them hear chosen. Let them hear covered. Let them hear healed. Let them hear established. Let them hear sent. Let them hear protected. Let them hear free. Let them hear forgiven. Let them hear renewed. Let them hear built again. Let the name rise louder than the accusation. Let it rise louder than the memory. Let it rise louder than the old evidence that keeps trying to testify against their future. And I declare they will not drag old labels into new doors. They will not walk into the next blessing calling themselves by the last battle. They will not enter a restored place, still introducing themselves as rejected. They will not enter divine provision, still wearing poverty as identity. They will not enter healthy love, still answering to abandonment. They will not enter purpose, still bowing to shame. Every blessing coming next will meet them as the person God named, not the person pain described. Every door God opens will recognize the name heaven spoke. Every assignment God gives will fit the identity God restored. Lord, give them strength for the limp. Give them peace for the night. Give them courage for the wrestling. Give them obedience for the morning after the encounter. Because sometimes the hardest part is not wrestling through the night. Sometimes the hardest part is walking differently when morning comes. So, give them the grace to walk as one renamed. Give them the courage to stop explaining the old version to people who refuse to honor the new work. Give them the discernment to stop returning to voices that only know how to call them by bondage. Give them the steadiness to carry peace before proof, faith before manifestation, obedience before applause. I speak over your spirit now. You are not what happened to you. You are not who left you. You are not what they called you. You are not the season that stripped you. You are not the rejection that redirected you. You are not the battle that exhausted you. You belong to God. You are held by God. You are being renamed by God. And what He calls you will stand longer than what they called you. What He speaks will outlive the accusation. What He writes will outrank the wound. And if this prayer is touching the place in you that has been waiting for permission to agree with heaven, I want you to make it public in a simple way. Go to the comments and write, "My season has a new name," or write, "God is renaming what broke me." Do not write it for attention. Write it as agreement. Write it as a line in the sand. Write it as a witness that you are no longer partnering with the label that pain placed on you. Write it because someone else is going to read it and realize they are not the only one being called out of an old name. Father, let every comment become a testimony of agreement. Let every person who writes those words feel chains loosening in their spirit. Let peace rise in rooms where anxiety has been loud. Let hope return to places where disappointment sat too long. Let courage stand up in people who thought they had nothing left. Let the new name settle deep, not as a slogan, not as a moment, as identity, as authority, as the beginning of a new way to walk. I declare your season has a new name. I declare heaven is breaking agreement with every false label. I declare God is not finished with the place that tried to define you. I declare the night did not win. I declare the limp will not shame you. I declare the morning will meet you blessed. And I declare that from this moment forward, you will begin to recognize the sound of peace as the sound of God naming you again. Now rise. You sat down under the weight of this word. But you are not supposed to stay seated under the weight of the old name. You paused because heaven arrested your attention. You listened because God interrupted the noise. You let the word find the place where pain had been speaking too long. But now the same God who told you to sit still is calling you to stand up different. Not louder, not pretending, not performing strength for people. Different in your agreement, different in your identity, different in what you answer to. This was not just a message. This was a summons. That interruption was not random. That ache in your chest while you listened was not emotional weakness. That tear that came before you had words, for it was not embarrassment. Heaven was touching the name beneath the wound. God was showing you that the pain was real, but the pain was not your name. The rejection was real, but the rejection was not your name. The delay was real, but the delay was not your name. The wrestling was real, but the wrestling was not punishment. The night was real, but the night did not get to define you. You have heard it now. The shaking was construction. The falling was clearing room. The release was not loss for the sake of loss. It was God making space for what could not fit inside the old identity. He did not bring you through this word so you could stand up and go back to calling yourself abandoned. He did not breathe over your spirit so you could return to the language of shame. He did not break agreement with false labels so you could pick them back up 5 minutes from now because they feel familiar. So listen to me one last time. Do not leave this moment and speak over yourself like heaven has been silent. Do not finish this video and go back to rehearsing the old sentence. Do not let your mouth become a doorway for the same label God just told you to drop. When fear comes back, answer from the new name. When the memory rises, answer from the new name. When the old voices call, do not turn your head. They are calling someone God is no longer requiring you to be. If you receive this word, I want you to like this video as a sign of agreement, not because of me, because something in you is saying yes to God. Subscribe if you know you need more spirit-led encouragement in this season, because your spirit needs to be fed while your identity is being restored. And share this with someone who is wrestling through the night right now, someone who thinks the limp means they lost, someone who needs to know they can come out of the dark carrying a name heaven spoke. And do not leave the comments empty. Leave your prayer request there. Name the place where you need the community to stand with you. Do not be vague if your spirit has courage for it. Say, pray for my family. Say, pray for my healing. Say, pray for my next step. Say, pray for me to believe the new name. And then read 1 or 2 comments from someone else. Do not just pass by them. Respond with a short blessing. Write, God is with you. Write, your season has a new name. Write, you are not alone. Your few words may be the confirmation someone else needs to keep walking. Because this is not just about you being renamed in private. This is about a people rising together out of false names, out of survival names, out of shame names, out of names spoken by seasons that had no authority to define what God claimed. Let this comment section become a place of witness. Let it become a place where the rejected remember they are chosen, where the weary remember they are held, where the wounded remember they are being restored. And now carry this. Carry it into the room. Carry it into the conversation. Carry it into tomorrow morning. Carry it when proof has not fully appeared yet. Carry it when peace is the only evidence you have. God has spoken over you, and what He calls you is stronger than what tried to break you. Chosen one, sit no longer under the old name. Rise under the name God has spoken. Your season has a new name.